Hey there, my fellow designers and creatives. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the first video in this mini series on advanced prototyping with variables. If you haven't watched the previous video where I talk about the course, make sure to watch that. It's a quick video and then you can come back and watch this video. So in this video, we're going to be doing the country picker interaction, and let me show you how that looks in the prototype. So this is the prototype and let me show you the interaction. So basically you can click on the country picker over here and you want to switch between two countries. So you want to, when you tap on India, what basically happens is that India gets pre-selected over here, the country code gets pre-selected over here, and then also the state gets changed over here, and then the state of Germany gets deselected. And then you can tap on Germany, and then Germany gets selected over here, and then India gets deselected. Now it seems like a very simple interaction. It seems it's super easy, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. So we're going to go ahead and understand how to do this with Figma variables, right? And you can also, of course, drag this down automatically. And one of the things that we're going to look at is to trigger multiple actions based on one particular trigger. So when I tap on India, not only do we select India, but we also close the modal sheet and we go ahead and fill this up, right? So we're typically doing 3 actions, right? So with that being said, let's get started. All right. So the first thing you obviously want to do is go ahead and create a user flow of the entire thing, right? All the edge cases you want to cover, all the happy parts you want to cover, every single thing. This will first of all help us look at the screen individually and may help us out when we are creating the prototype, but it will also tell us what are the components that we need and what are the various states that we need, right? Because we're going to be using variables to switch between 2 states as well, right? Not only just 2 states to 2 and more states, right? So let's go ahead and understand that. So here, let me explain the user flow in the most simplest way. So we start off on this particular screen. Now, typically when you're designing a flow in a real app, ideally the keyboard should automatically be active on this screen because you don't want the user to tap on anything, right? Because most likely the country code is automatically going to be correct, right? 99% of the time, right? But in this example, I'm just going to assume that the user has to tap on the input field to trigger the keyboard. Right? So the first thing is you can select the country code. Here I've chosen 49, which is Germany. And when you tap on it, you can come over here and you're going to get to this bottom sheet, which basically has the list of all the countries for you to pick from. All right. Then you tap on the input field. You get the cursor or the indicator as we call it. The button moves up. You get the keyboard. You start typing and then you can see over here. Now there is a state change between this to this. Here it is inactive. Here it is active. Here it is filled. Right? Here there is a state change because as you can see, the text here is on the right, but then here the text is on the left. So this is a different state. All right. And then you continue typing here again. And in Germany, we have 11 digits. And when you hit 11 digits, the state of the button is going to go from disabled to it's going to become active, right? Now, if the country code was a different country, for example, India, where we have 10 digits, then we would activate this when we hit 10 digits, right? Now, the other thing to understand here is that we are not going to let users tap or enter more than 10 digits or more than 11 digits. In this case, we are going to limit the number of taps they can do. So we will restrict the number of digits over here to 11. But of course, if you want to let them continue typing and you want to throw an error state, that's also absolutely fine, right? I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm going to do it very differently over here, which is we're going to limit it to 11 characters over here. And then we're going to activate the button. So when you tap on the button, we're going to transition you to a new screen where we're going to say verify your phone number. We're going to say we sent you a 6-digit code to whatever the number they had entered over here. So it's the same number that is going to show up over here. Now, when we are making a raw prototype without variables, you will have to have these 2 numbers be the same. But then now in our prototype with variables, whatever number the user types here is going to be printed over here. Yes, the word is called print. That's an engineering term. That's very important to understand, right? So this is not going to be a static prototype. It's going to be a dynamic prototype where you give this prototype to anybody and whatever number they type, that is going to end up over here. That is the power of Figma variables. All right. Now, what's actually happening here is that the moment I tap on this button, we transition to this next screen. All right. And automatically we're going to bring in the keyboard. Right? Automatically, we're going to bring in the keyboard. So this is already selected, right? And we automatically bring up the keyboard, right? So it's like a very tiny transition between this screen and this screen, and this happens automatically, right? Anything that's automatic, I've made it in, the gray color, right? So quickly to recap, you tap on the button, you transition to the next screen, and automatically the prototype will push up the keyboard, right? You don't have to tap on anything. It will automatically do it, but I'm showing you this because we need to have these 2. This is going to be like an intermediary state, and we're going to need this intermediary state, right? This is how interaction design works. You need to consider every single interaction, whether it is user triggered or whether it is the app or system triggered, right? Amazing. Now, another thing here is that here I've used a maximum maximum limit of 10 seconds, right? So this is going to be a timer which is going to keep, reducing. So once it hits 0, it's going to say resend code. And when you tap on resend code, that's going to go and start this again. It's going to reset the timer here for you again, right? So I'm just looping this. Then once the keyboard is up, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have like a delay where the system, or basically the phone, recognizes that there is an SMS and that's going to show here as a suggestion, right? So you can start typing over here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition from this intermediary screen to this screen, and then after 1 or 2 seconds, this automatically comes up because it takes that 1 or 2 seconds for the app to get the SMS from the SMS provider, right? Or actually from the OTP provider, right? So there's going to be a transition, or better, basically a delay of 1 to 2 seconds where this is going to pop up, all right? And then I'm going to start typing. So I can do a couple of things, right? I can either start typing over here, and that's going to start entering the numbers over here, all right? Or I can tap on this suggestion box, and that is automatically going to pre-fill everything that I need over here. Or I can continue typing and I can type in the number as well, right? And we're going to limit it to a character number of 6 digits because we don't want more than 6 digits. All right. Now, the next thing is, now that this is there, now sometimes most of the apps, they automatically start validating it the moment you hit 6 characters, right? But in this case, we're not going to do the automatic validation. We are going to trigger the validation. So I'm going to type 6 characters and then I'm going to tap on verify code. And now if the code is correct, it's going to change to green. And as you can see, now this is in a new state, which is sort of like the completed state, where the cursor isn't there anymore, right? You can see the indicator is not there. It's validating, and this basically takes like less than a second, and then it automatically transitions to the home screen. I don't have to tap on anything, right? We type this, we tap on verify code, that transitions to the next screen, which basically changes the color of this to green. We're not really transitioning as such. We're just showing you the various states where this automatically just becomes green color and for a second, and then we transition to the home screen. Now, if the digit is wrong, we're going to go ahead and reset it, and we're going to throw an error, right? We're basically going to say the code is incorrect, please try again, and we're going to reset it, right? We're going to reset it to basically, this original state that we have, right? And then once I start typing, when I begin to type, this message goes away. So this message is going to stay until I start typing, right? The moment there's an error, we throw the error message, we reset the input field for you, and once you start typing any character, right, either you tap on 1 or 6 or 7 or 9, doesn't matter, whatever you tap on, we are then going to start typing it over here, and we're going to remove the error message, right? So basically, this is the general flow that we're going to be following, okay? So now, let's get started. So to make a copy of this, we're going to bring that over here, okay? And the first thing we're going to do is, because this component is going to have multiple states, right? We're going to have 4 states. We're going to go ahead and create 4 states, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take this out, make a copy of this. I'm just going to add a fill color. I'm not using any text styles. I'm not using any color style. I'm just keeping everything detached because that's not important for this video. Okay. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tap on this to create a component. I'm going to say phone number input field. Okay, and we're going to create a separate component for the digits as well. All right, we're going to create a separate one for the digits, or basically the OTP is what I mean, right? Come over here, and I'm going to create 4 states. So I'm going to come over here, or in fact, what I can do is I can just grab the other one that I made. I'm going to copy this, come over here, paste it, add that fill, make this into a component. We can delete this, and then I'm just going to put this inside over here. Okay, and then select this whole thing, press Shift A. I'm going to auto layout it so that we can easily make changes, right? So here we have the default state where all we have is this wrapper with the country code and a chevron. And we also have a single text field which expands the entire width, okay? Now in this one, the second state, we have the same thing over here. We have the country picker. And then we also have a wrapper over here where you have a phone number, and then you have an indicator. Now the indicator, as you can see over here, I've actually kept it as an absolute position, right? Because the indicator, we want it to be on top, right? So if I come over here and if I remove the absolute position, you can see it moves all the way to the right. If I bring it to the left, you can see that this phone number is not aligning with over this, right? Because obviously this is not in an absolute position, right? So because these two are now beside each other. But if I set it to absolute position, all right, then it comes on top, right? This is the behavior that I want, okay? Next, moving forward, we are going to have this one, which is this state. I'm going to copy that, come over here and paste it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a component, add a fill, and then just drag that inside. So this becomes an instance, all right? And now over here, what we're going to do is we're going to start naming this, right? So first one, we're going to change this to state, okay? So this is going to be inactive, okay? Right? Or maybe we can call it disabled. Actually, not disabled, inactive is the right word. Then this is going to be the active state, which means the keyboard is now visible and then it's activating. Then we have this, which is basically going to be the filled state, right? So this is going to be like the filled state. Okay. Now, one of the cool things over here is that if I come over here, let me just go ahead and change this to label. All right. And we're going to change this to label. Or actually, I'm going to call this actually placeholder. This is better. So placeholder, change this to placeholder. This is going to be placeholder. And this is going to be placeholder. Okay. Now here, we're going to change this to phone number, right? To make it easy to understand, right? So here, this is going to be phone number. Now the placeholder text is different from the phone number text, right? This text is not going to become this text. This text, which is the placeholder, is going to disappear from this particular state, right? Over here, when I start typing, the placeholder is going to go and then the phone number is going to start appearing. All right. So this is another one. And then we have another state, where we can basically remove off all the elements that we don't need. We can set this to fill container. This is just a single text layer. And here we can call this the completed state. Okay. So basically we have 4 states. If I were to quickly take an example and bring that over here. Okay. So here we have the inactive. Oh, maybe I want to change the order of this. So we're going to have inactive on top. Then we're going to have active, then filled and completed. Right. Okay. So this is the inactive state. When I tap on it, it becomes active and the cursor starts appearing. And then we're going to show the filled state where we are now typing the digits and this keeps moving on to the right side. So as you can see, it keeps moving on to the right side. And then finally, this is the completed state where the keyboard is inactive and then, the phone number is just there, right? Amazing. So these are the 4 variants of the input field component, right? For the phone number input field. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy that. I'm going to come over here and paste it over here. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to phone number. Okay. Amazing. Now we also have this button. We're going to go ahead and create this later on when we need to use this. Okay. So let's create our first animation or interaction or transition, right? What do we want? So the first thing is that when I tap on this, we want it to trigger this modal sheet. Okay. We want it to trigger this modal sheet. So what I'm going to copy this, come down and paste it over here. Now this is a native prototyping feature that Figma already has. We don't really have to reinvent the wheel. It's actually very simple, right? So basically what that means is if I come over here and go to prototype and when I say click, right? So when I click, okay, we have a couple of options, right? All we want to do is we want to open an overlay, right? We already have this feature. It is very simple and straightforward. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this, move this over to the side, bring it outside. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have the exact height and width of the modal perfect, right? You want it to be exactly like this. Okay. And yeah, basically the only difference here is the 44 pixel gap that we see over here, which is basically the status bar, right? Because we want this to go all the way to the top. Okay. We don't want it to cover the status bar, but then we want to limit it over here, right? Because on phones like the iPhone 10, you also have the notch. So you don't want to go over the notch, right? And you want to make sure that it's the exact same size as the entire frame, right? You don't want it to be a bit bigger, right? Now, I'm not going to be showing you how to scroll this because that's not relevant for this prototype. We're just going to pick between Germany and India in this case, okay? Amazing. So now we have this thing called as the modal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. We're going to click on this. We're going to add a prototype. We already created the interaction. So maybe I'm going to restart again. I'm going to select this, click on the plus. On click, we want you to open an overlay. And we want you to open which overlay? We have this modal. I'm going to click on that. And now we have the interactions. So do we want it to dissolve or move in? We obviously want it to move in. So I'm going to say move in. And then we're going to choose move in from the bottom so you can see how it comes. Probably have an easing of 200. Maybe that's fine. Doesn't really matter. There are a couple of settings over here. The bottom center, do you want it to come, do you want it to be aligned to the left or the bottom? We want it to be bottom center because that works for us. We can also add a background over here at the back. So if I set this to 100, I can show you the difference. All right. So now we can go ahead and quickly test this. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to press Shift Enter. And Shift Enter is this new feature where we can preview it over here in Figma, which is such a beautiful godsend of a feature. I'm just going to go ahead and shrink this so you all can see it. All right, there we go. We can see it. Okay. So now when I tap on this, as you can see, we're going to get this from the bottom. Now, I think 200 is a bit too fast, so maybe I'm going to increase that to 250. But also here, it becomes completely black. So what I will do is I'm going to click on this and we're going to change this to 250. And also make sure that the opacity is like 20% or something, right? So now when we play this, you can see it's a lot more smoother and you can see this on the top, right? Perfect. Now we also want to close this, and there are two ways of closing this. One is you can drag this down to close it, or when you tap on another element, either of these, whether you tap on United Kingdom or France or United States or China or India, whatever you tap on, it should automatically close it, right? Now, for now, we're going to focus on this where we drag this down, right? So let's do that. Very simple. This is nothing complicated at all. We already have these basic prototyping features. So I'm going to click on this top dragger. Okay. I'm going to click on interaction. Now I'm doing this, in this manual way of clicking things over here because it's easier for me rather than just selecting something and dragging and everything over here. I'm going to just follow by, clicking over here. But of course you can come over here and you can select these elements and then you can create like a noodle as what they call it, right? But the problem is here, this, I have to view everything over here, which makes it hard, which is why I prefer doing it over here, right? Okay, so we want to navigate back to the previous screen, which is easy. And what we want to do is we don't want the trigger to be on click. We want it to drag. So here I'm going to change it to on drag. And when I do drag, okay, you can see that we want to navigate to. Now, instead of doing this, I can choose this option called as back, okay, which basically reverses the entire thing, right? So this is a lot simpler. So if I were to show this again, okay, I click on the country picker and then I click on this and I can drag this down and it basically reverses the entire animation. I don't have to create it again, right? Pretty cool, right? So I click on this, I drag this down and then it goes away, right? Super simple and straightforward. We haven't even gotten to the complex part yet, all right? Amazing. Now, the next thing here is that when we click on one of these list items, we want it to change the phone number over here with the country code. And we also wanted to select it, right? So now if I select India, the check mark over here should go away. And then the check mark here should be visible. And it also changes over here, right? So now, obviously we have two states. We have a selected state and a deselected state, right? So obviously we want to create components for that. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this out. I'm going to go ahead and create this into a component. I'm going to call this list item. Okay. And create another variant. All right. And for the first one, we will not have the check mark. Okay. And we can also just go ahead and make sure that we don't have any other auto layouts. So we just have one auto layout. Here, I think it's 4. So we want to make sure that this is also 4, right? Make sure that everything is same. So here we just have default, or what we can do is we can call this state, okay? Or I can actually call this active. And here I'm going to say true. And here, or actually this is going to be false. And this is going to be called true, okay? Now what that basically does is that gives me the switch. When I choose true and false, it's going to give me the switch so I can turn it off. So if this is this active, yes. If not, there's no, check mark. Amazing. Okay. So here, and I'm going to go ahead and just reset all this. I'm going to call this label. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and call this label. And here I'm going to call this, or in this case, let's just call this country name. Okay. Keep it simple. All right. Call this country name. And here we're going to go ahead and call this country code. So keep it simple, okay, country code. Okay, so now what we have to do is we're going to go ahead and replace all of this, okay, with the component. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and quickly change all of this, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we've gone ahead and just used the components. As you can see, all of these are now components. As you can see, all of these are components, and we can turn these on and off if we need to, right? Okay. Perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and start using Figma variables and build all the logic. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is create some sort of a simple prototype. Okay. So what that means, I'm going to come over here and drag this down, and let's understand what we want to do. Okay, so over here, I'm going to move this over to the side. Okay, create a duplicate, right? So what we're basically doing is when I tap on India over here, okay, I want it to turn on the switch for this. And I also want it to turn this off, okay? When we do create a prototype and we link these two screens, this is what we get. But the whole point of Figma variables is that we do everything on this screen itself, right? I can tap on any of the elements over here, and we're going to use only India for now as an example, and I'll tell you why, all right? And then it should deselect this. We don't want it to transition or switch between screens. We want to build the logic, all of the logic in this one single screen, right? But what I'm doing is I'm actually creating this flow so that we can go ahead and start understanding how to build the logic. What are the things that we want to do, all right? Now, over here, what I will also do is in this case, after I select India, okay? If I come over here and I tap on Germany again, we want Germany to get selected and we don't want India to be selected, right? Pretty simple. Now, on this particular screen, if I tap on Germany, right, which is the first screen, well, it shouldn't deselect, right? Because the thing is, we can't deselect it because something always has to be selected, right? We can't have like a empty field over here. Something always has to be selected by default, right? So even though we have Germany over here, which is selected, if I tap on Germany, nothing should basically happen, right? So we want to use English now and try to build this logic, right? So let's understand that, okay? So I'm going to move this all over to the side. I'm going to go ahead and just get a piece of text layer over here, change this to white, and I'm going to go ahead and start writing this down. So what we need are 3 layers, all right? We need 3 different layers, or basically 3 parts that form a logic, okay? So the first one is the trigger. So when I tap on Germany, okay, we're going to say do nothing, okay? And I'm also going to go ahead and start adding some colors over here so it's a bit better for us to understand over here. So let me just add this blue color. I'm also going to create like a color style so it's simple. Just call this blue, okay? So when I tap on Germany, okay, this entire list item, do nothing, right? Makes absolute sense, okay? I'm going to come down over here and come to the India section, all right? And here I'm going to say, when I tap on India, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to set India to active, right? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change this to India. Select this. We're going to make this blue in color, and we're also going to click here and change the color to blue, but I'm actually going to choose a different green color so we can see some difference. Okay, this is better, and I'm going to just create a style. I'm going to call this green. Perfect. Now the other thing we want to do is when I tap on India, set India to active, but I also want you to turn off Germany, right? I want you to take Germany and set that to inactive, right? So come over here and I'm going to say set Germany to inactive. Okay, so go ahead and just change all the colors over here. So make all of this white. We're going to take Germany, set that to blue. I'm going to select this, and then we're going to set that to red. Actually, we want to make it red. Okay, I'm going to go here and click on this, create a style, and then we're going to call this red. Okay, so let's quickly understand, right? So here in this particular state, when I tap on Germany, do nothing, don't do anything, all right? But on this particular screen itself, if I do tap on India, right, I want you to set India to active, okay, obviously number one. And number two, I want you to turn off Germany, which basically you set Germany to inactive, okay? Perfect. Now, we're going to do the same thing over here with this particular state, okay? So, okay, if the screen looks like this, okay, and then when I tap on Germany, before it was do nothing, but now obviously that's not going to work. we have to go ahead and turn this on, right? So here I'm going to come and say, in fact, I can copy this entire thing and paste it over here. So here I say, when I tap on Germany, okay, I want you to set Germany to active. Set Germany to active, okay? And set India to inactive, right? Because in this case, India is active. So when I tap on Germany, I want you to set Germany to active and India set that to inactive, okay? And over here, in this particular state, when I tap on India, do nothing. Do nothing at all, right? If this is the screen, and if this is the state of the screen, and when India is already pre-selected, and when I tap on India, do absolutely nothing, right? Now the problem here is that we can't have two different sets of logics which contradict each other for the same element because it's one particular screen, right? So basically we need to go ahead and combine the logic, okay? And this is where conditionals comes into place, okay? So I'm going to delete this. So let's go ahead and take this one, okay? And I'm actually going to move this down, okay? And I'll select these two, right? For the Germany. Bring that down, place them over here, or maybe bring these two together. And also for India, I want to bring that down. And then I'm going to place these two together. What we want to do is basically combine both of these logics, okay? So let's see how to do it. So I'm just going to come down over here and maybe reduce the opacity. And then we're going to create one logic. So when I tap on Germany, okay, then we're going to say, when I tap on Germany, if Germany is active, okay, do nothing, okay? So if Germany is active, okay, which is basically this state, if Germany is active, do nothing. Or else, now instead of saying or else, we can also say if Germany is inactive, okay, which basically is the opposite of this, okay? Move this down a bit over here, okay? So we basically say if Germany is inactive, okay, we want you to do this thing, okay, which means we want you to first set Germany to active, okay, or maybe I'm going to say remove the or else, all right, and I'm going to say here, and I'm just going to make this better and easier to understand without too many colors, okay. We're going to set Germany to active, right? So if Germany is inactive, set Germany to active, right? But if Germany is already active, don't do anything. But we also want to make sure that we set India to inactive. Okay, we're basically combining this. If Germany is active, do nothing. If Germany is inactive, then do this, which is set Germany to active and India to inactive. Okay, so basically we're creating this if-else conditional statement for this particular trigger, right? When I tap on Germany, if Germany is active, do nothing. If Germany is not active, then make it active and set India to inactive, right? We'll change this to red. Okay. We're going to do the same thing over here, right? So we'll come down over here. Okay. Now in this particular state, when I tap on India, okay, we can say if India is active, then don't do anything, right? When I tap on India, if India is active, do nothing, okay? If India is inactive, then set India to active, right? Select it, set it up, okay? And then take Germany and set that to inactive, right? Very simple logic, right? We're going to use the power of English as you see over here to solve it, right? And we don't need this anymore. And as you can see here, right? If India is active, we do nothing. And if India is inactive, then we basically do the same thing. Okay. So now with this logic in mind, we're going to go ahead and build a conditional. Okay. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on this. All right. I'm going to come over here and I want to say interaction. Now, the first one is when I tap on India, right? So when I tap, sorry, Germany, right? When I click, obviously tap, click, pretty much the same thing. Okay. We're going to go ahead and set a conditional, right? We have this if and else statement, right? We have this logic, we have this condition. So I'm going to go ahead and set conditional directly. And now we're going to write this down. Now, how you write this down is where everything matters. Okay. So the first thing is we decided this, right? When I tap on Germany, or when I click on Germany, you say click over here, right? Or maybe what I can do over here is to make this a bit easy. So I'm going to go ahead and choose replace, and I'm going to find tap. I'm going to change that with click everywhere, right? It's a bit easier to understand. So I'm going to say replace all. Okay. So when I click on Germany, okay, perfect. So close this up. Okay. So when I click on Germany, okay, if Germany is active, okay. Now, what that basically means is we need to write a condition using variables over here, right? And what variables are we defining, right? We are basically defining the state of this component, right? If the state of this component is active, then do nothing. Now, how do you go ahead and define that state, right? Which means we need to use a variable to define what the state is, because Figma has no idea what is active or inactive, okay? So what that means, we're going to go ahead to our variables and we create a brand new variable. Okay. Now here we only have two states. Okay. We have an on state and an off state, right? And as you can see, we have a switch over here. So if you're ever using a switch, right, you want to use the Boolean property. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another use case where we have multiple states and we can't use the Boolean property. I'm going to show you that. But in this case, because we have this switch, we're going to use a Boolean property. Okay. And the most important thing here to understand is that this is going to be the default value, all right, or setting. Okay, or we're going to say text, or we're going to say state. Okay, this is the default. Okay, in this case, the default is here set to active. Okay, now what you can do is you can try to apply this to the main master component itself, right? So let's try to do that. I'm going to click on this. You just have to do it to one of them. You don't have to do it for all of them. Now, as you see over here, we can't really apply it. We're not able to apply. There's no button to apply over here, right? Which means we have to do it on the instance itself, right? So I'm going to come over here. And in fact, what we can do is I'm going to move these two logics over here because we've already done the interaction. So I'm going to delete this, come over here. And we're going to add that conditional again, right? So I'm going to click on this, or actually before we add the conditional, I'm going to say, now this is active. So maybe we want to set the default state to active. Okay, so here, this is the default. What is the default? It is true over here. So we want to make sure it is true here as well. What I will do is I'm going to click over here and then I'm going to choose this Boolean. Now it's called Boolean, but what we can do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say Germany. Okay. Now the naming sometimes might get confusing for you if you use the wrong names. I mean, there's no right or wrong way. It's just that you are going to get confused with the logic. So try to keep it as similar to what we have done here. And I'm just going to follow the English language, right? Because I'm saying if Germany, if India is if active, right? I'm going to use the same word over here, right? I'm going to come over here and say Germany. So now as you can see, we have linked this particular state to this Boolean property, which means here, if I turn this off, it gets turned off over here as well, right? And if I turn this on, it gets turned on. It's just like applying a color style, right? If you apply a color style, or in this case, we apply a color variable, you change the hex code of the variable, that gets reflected over here as well, right? If it's applied. So here, we're not just applying a color variable, we're applying a Boolean variable, right? So that's good. So now let's go back and try to find that logic. So I'm gonna click on this. Go to prototype, I'm going to add that conditional. So when I say on click, okay, conditional, okay. when I tap on Germany, okay, if, now here we now have the state of Germany. If the state of Germany, okay, we're just following the same English. If Germany is equal to, now as you can see, we have 4 options. We have equal to, not equal to, and or, right? We're going to look at and or later, but for now, we're just going to focus on equal to. If Germany is equal to active. Now, what does active mean? Now, in variables, we can't use the word active. We have to use the word true or false, right? So if the state of Germany is true, okay, so we're going to tap on true over there, and you can obviously type it down if you want as well, right? So TRUE, okay, you want to select the elements over here. If it is true, click outside. Now we need to add an action. If Germany is true, do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. So we're going to leave this blank, or else, which is the opposite. If Germany, else means is not true, which is false, which is inactive, then we want you to do 2 things. What is it? The first thing is we want to set a variable over here, right? We want to set a state. You click on set variable and you want to choose the variable, right? You want to take obviously Germany, okay? Now here it says true. Now what is very important to understand here is when you click on this, you are basically telling Figma that when I am doing this else statement, what I defined over here doesn't matter, right? Here in the variables, we had said that Germany would be true, right? If I were to show you the variables, we had set Germany to be true, okay? But what I will do now here is coming back to this, we will say, if Germany is not true, take the state of Germany, okay? Whatever it is, doesn't matter if it is true or false. I don't care, right? I don't care what it is. Just take that and set that to true, okay? If it is true, set it to true. If it is false, set it to true. I don't care, right? You're telling Figma whatever is the state of Germany, set that to true. Now, we also want to set India to inactive, right? Now, which means here we have only one condition set. We want to add another one. We want you to do 2 things if Germany is untrue, okay? So here, if you hover over here, you can see you can add a plus, which means you can set more actions. So set variable. Now I have to select India, but I don't really have an India variable, right? So I'm going to create an India variable, okay? So come over here to design, and you're going to set another Boolean property and call this India. Now, what is the default value in our screen? The default here is false. So we're going to keep it as false, okay? And then we're going to come over here, and here in the state, here it is set to false. We're going to apply the variable, and we're going to say set India to false, okay? Over here, and here I turn this on. You can see India gets turned on. If it is false, it is turned off, okay? So we're going to come back over here to this variable, and here. Okay, so let's just recap, right? So when I click on Germany, if Germany is true, do nothing. If Germany is not true, do 2 things. The first thing is take Germany and set that to true, okay? And take India and set that to false, okay? So I'm going to pick a target variable. Set what? Set India. Whatever is the value of India, I don't really care. Whatever it is, set that to false, okay? It's the same logic over here, okay? So now we have our conditional set. So let's now actually test this, right? Now click on this or click on the mainframe, press Shift Enter, and here when I tap on this, okay? So now as you can see, we have applied that conditional only to this, right? So when I click on this, nothing is actually happening, right? Which is what we want, and I'm clicking, right? Unfortunately, we can't see the click, but you know, hope you can understand, okay? Now what we want to do is we want to set that same conditional over here as well, okay? Now, of course, you can sit down and type the entire thing and set the conditional again, but what I will do is I'm going to copy it and then change it, right? It's faster. So we click on the Germany one, copy that, pressing Control C or Command C, come here to India and paste, okay? And now we're going to open up the India one. Make sure you're selecting the India one. And we're just going to go ahead and replicate this. When I click on India, if India, okay? So I'm going to click on this, and actually we're going to type this again. If India is equal to true, then do nothing. Do nothing. If India is not true, okay, then do two things, which is the else statement, right? Else is basically if India is inactive. Set the variable of India, okay, to active, to true, okay? And then you take Germany, okay, and set that to false, right? So to recap, so on click of India, if India is true, if India is active, do nothing, and we don't add any action. But if India is inactive, which is the else statement, okay, take India, okay, set the variable of India to active. Active basically is true. And Germany, set that to false. Okay. So now let's test this. Okay. I'm going to click on this. And now over here, when I tap on Germany, nothing happens. But if I tap on India, you can see India gets selected and Germany gets deselected. This is exactly the behavior that we need. So when I click on Germany here again, Germany gets selected. If I tap on India, India gets selected. And this is exactly the behavior that we want. Now, here comes the next question. But what if I want to select United Kingdom next or France next? What should we do? Right? Now, here is the problem. Right? So let me explain this in a much better way. So to come down over here, okay? And let's say we have France selected. And here, let's say we have India selected. And let's say here we have China selected. Okay. So here we have 4 states where Germany is selected, France is selected, India is selected, and China is selected. Right? Now, in all of these 4 cases, if I tap on UK, in this case, we wanted to remove Germany. Here we wanted to deselect basically or remove France. Here we wanted to reset India, and here we want to reset China. Which means we have to tell Figma that, look, we just chose 2 countries over here. But if we have to do United Kingdom, we have to say, all right, and maybe we can bring in this over here, all right, to make this even clearer to understand. Okay. When I click on UK, or actually we want to bring in the conditional statement, not the statement, I'll bring the conditional statement over here. When I click on UK, if UK is active, do nothing. But if UK is inactive, okay, I want you to set UK to active and I want you to say Germany to inactive. Okay, this makes sense, right? So if I click on UK, if UK is active, good, don't do anything. If UK is inactive, then set UK to active and set Germany to inactive. But because we can have only one conditional statement for UK, when I come over here I have to say, okay, I'm going to copy this, come over here and paste, and here I'm going to say set France also to inactive. The thing is, we don't know what will be selected before I tap on United Kingdom. The thing is, I don't know, right? Which means all the countries in the world, you will have to come over here and add over here, right? So for this one, we're basically going to say set India to inactive. Okay. And here we're going to say set China to inactive. So which means we need to add all the countries, right? And we pretty much have tons of countries, right? So in this particular state, Figma Variables is limited to this extent because we can't go ahead and do that dynamic interaction exactly like how engineers can do it, right? Engineers can do it very easily, but here we cannot do it, right? So just to explain to the engineers how this works, we just have to select 1 or 2 countries and then do it along and then just set the conditional for that, right? Because I will then have to select all of this and paste it for all the countries that we want and set the logic, which just becomes a big mess, right? But just because we are going to explain the concept to engineers, we are just picking 2 countries. So that's why I'm going to be changing only between Germany and India, all right? Now, we can make this work like I'm saying over here, but it's a lot of effort. You have to copy paste, you have to go to each of the countries and change this, right? change UK to active, change UK to inactive, China to active, China to inactive, United States to active, United States to inactive, France to active, France to inactive, right? That takes forever, right? And there's no point in doing it, right? So if you just explain the concept to engineers with 1 or 2 countries, it should solve the problem, right? Perfect. So now let's go ahead and see what else we need to do, okay? So we're going to play the prototype. So here I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say India. Now we're going to use some more logic over here. Okay. So we'll do this over to the side. Here what we're going to do is when I click on Germany, okay, the first thing that I want you to do is here there's no condition, right? We've already set that conditional over here. Here we're going to do something else. Okay. When I click on Germany, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to close the modal. Right? Pretty simple, right? Set this to white. Okay, close the modal. But I also want you to come and change this country code to +49. Okay, and change the code to +49. And the same thing, I'm going to do that over here. When I click on India, close the modal, right? Because obviously it's selected. We don't have a close button or something. It automatically should close. And we're going to change the code to +91. Okay. So come over here, set this to blue. And here we're going to set this to blue. Okay. So let's go ahead and create that logic. Okay. So I'm going to come here to the prototype. Click on this. So we have the conditional. Now, here's the interesting thing. On click, we are setting this conditional. Okay, but we can also create another set of actions altogether, which is not conditional. So the conditional is going to be as it is. So here on the top, when I click on Germany, do the conditional. Perfect. But we also want you to do this, which has nothing to do with conditionals. So I'm going to come over here, click on plus, and we are going to go ahead and click on back. Okay, and back basically closes the modal, right? We use the same thing over here. On drag, we set to back. So on this, we're going to set it also to back, right? So if I collapse, so we have the conditional and then you also have the back animation, right? So let's see if that works. So click on this, play this, click on this, this works. And when I click on this, you can see it's not working, all right? I have to drag it down. So maybe what we can do is we can change the interaction. So on click, instead of choosing back, I'm going to say close overlay, okay? And let's see if that works. Open this up again, click here, click on Germany, and then perfect. Amazing, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for India as well. So for India, when I click, I want you to close the overlay. Very simple. So let's try that out. Okay, so click over here. When I click on Germany, it closes. When I click on India, also it closes. Okay, perfect. But now we want to change the country code as well. Okay, so now we're going to use a variable. Why? Because we have this +49 and we want it to change this also to 49. We want this automatic change. And because we are changing the text layers, we're going to create a string variable, right? String variable is basically text information. Okay. So I'm going to come down over here and come down here to the prototype, or actually I'm going to go to the variables. Now here we have 2 options, number or string. Now, as I mentioned before, it is extremely important to understand the difference between number and string. What we are changing here is not a unit of measurement. It's actually just the text layer that we are changing. It's not a unit of measurement, right? A country code is just a country code. It's not like centimeters or meters or number of units or number of digits. It's just a number, right? So we are going to use a string variable, okay? And here what I'm going to say is I'm going to say Germany code, and I'm going to set that to +49, okay? And I'm also going to add one for the India code. So I'm going to say India code, and I'm going to say +491, okay? So now I'm going to click on this element that you see over here. Now here, we just have typed in 49, right? So let's say I'm going to type a big number like this. If I come over here to the variables, and then I choose the Germany code, which is 49, it is going to change that to 49. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for India. Let's say the India number is something, right? Even if we have alphabets, I'm going to come over here and change that to India code, which is +91. Okay. Now, here's the tricky part. Here, what should we do? Should we choose Germany code or India code? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you that adding Germany code over here is the wrong answer or the wrong way to do it. And let me tell you why. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So let's say I set this to Germany code. All right. Let's say this is how it works. So let's go ahead and now set up the logic. We've applied the variables and now we have to set up the logic. So I'm going to come down here to the, click on this, go to prototype, click here. So we did two things. So on click, we set the conditional. We also set the modal. Now we want to change the country code. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and add a set variable. Okay. We are going to change what? This country code, right? The German country code, okay, to the German country code. Now, if you see over here, this makes no sense. All right. But let's see if that still works. Okay. And I'm going to come over here to India, set the variable. I'm going to say plus set variable. Okay. This we had applied the German country code. Okay. So I'm going to say the German country code, set that to what? To the Indian country code. Okay. Now let's see what happens. So come over here, turn this on, click on this. Now when I tap on Germany, nothing happens, right? Because it's 4.9 as usual, right? Here also it's 4.9. But when I tap on India, okay, here it changes to 9.1, which is perfect, right? But you can see here that it changed Germany's also to 9.1, right? This should not change, right? And the reason this changed is because over here, we said on click, set the German country code to India. But German country code is 4.9. We have applied that German country code variable to this. So in that case, we have to create a brand new variable, right? Which is different from the German country code. So come over here and create a new one, create a new string variable. And here we are going to say default code. Okay. And now the default code, what is the default value? Plus 4.9, right? We always want to select the default value. The default over here on the screen is plus 4.9. So I'm going to say plus 4.9. Okay. And then now we're going to select this, come here to prototype. Okay. And now when we are doing the set variable, when I click on Germany, I want you to change the default code. Whatever is the default code, I don't care. Even if the default code is 3000, I don't care. Take that and change that to the German country code, which is plus 4.9. Okay. And over here, India. I'm going to open this up. When I click on India, I want you to take the default country code. What is the default country code? Honestly, I don't care. It can be 1 million as well. Just take that number and change that to the Indian code, which is plus 9.1. Okay. That's how you want to use English. And now let's check it out. So come over here. And now when I click on this, when I click on Germany, it's 4.9. Perfect. Does nothing. All right. India is still 9.1. When I click on India, okay, it doesn't change here. The reason is because we didn't actually apply this. All right. So if I come over here, this is still German country code. We need to change it to the default code, right? So now, then you can see it changed over here. So let me play that again. Okay. So it was 4.9. When I click on Germany, it changed to 4.9. When I click on it again, when I change to India, this changed to 9.1. But here, this is still plus 4.9, which is correct. And now, when I change this back to Germany, this changes to 4.9. And then here it is 9.1. Right? And then I can close this as usual. All right. So this is how you create this dynamic country picker. Now, one final thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and we make sure that we organize things pretty well, right? So because we're going to have multiple variables over here. So I'm going to click on this, say rename collection, call this country picker. Okay. And we can put that over here. And when we create another set of variables which are not connected to the country picker, we can go ahead and obviously create a new collection and then add in all our variables over there, right? Perfect. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. I'll see you guys in the next video. So take care. Bye-bye.